Hello, people. How's it going? How's it going? Well, 80 years ago today, the Russians liberated Auschwitz. So, February 27th, 1945. I want to say something first, though. I got into this with some people on Twitter about where Auschwitz is and so on and so forth. Auschwitz is in Poland, okay? And I can't, it is in Poland. Despite the best efforts to try to convince me that this was Germans annexed that part of Poland, it was no longer Poland. No, it's still part of Poland. And the thing is, I can understand why it bothers people. Because think about it. Having your country, something you didn't put there, you didn't build it, and if you did build it, you did it against your will, or you didn't do it against your will. Polish history when it comes to the Jews is not exactly without sin, without bloodshed. But I get it. I understand why having Auschwitz there is bothersome to the Poles. I get it. I understand that part. But telling me it wasn't in Polish territory originally is nonsense. Because I looked it up, and it's been a part of Poland for a few hundred years. So stop it. You're not going to convince me. I can read a book, but I do get it. I do understand why. I do understand why it's bothersome to the Poles, because they don't want it there. It's a reminder of something they don't want to remember. I get it. I get that. I understand that, actually. When you have this monument to Nazi atrocities in your country you did not build. Well, I get it. I understand why it's a sensitive subject. I get that. But you can't tell me that just because the Germans annexed it, it was not Polish in the first place. It doesn't work that way. I know Polish history. At least I know some of it. Anyway, it is that 80 years later. It's the liberation of Auschwitz. And as history is repeating itself again in this country and around the world again, and don't you dare try to convince me it's not, because I know history and it's repeating itself. But first of all, I want to just recommend a few bazillion books on the subject of Auschwitz and Holocaust and this, that, and the other. First, I want to show the books I started with. I got into reading about this subject in the early 80s when history and World War II history was just beginning to become interesting to me. It was becoming something I was interested in, and figuring out I was Jewish at the same time. So it also sort of highlighted, okay. This was one of the first books I ever read on the theory and practice of hell, the Nazi horror camps and how they worked. This extraordinary book, used as a basis for the Nuremberg investigations, is not for the faint of heart. It is a graphically very good book. It is graphic. It is well written. It is worth reading if you can find it. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a true and detailed account of what life in the Nazi concentration camps was really like. It's also about singing horses, the medical experiments, children stacked in snow. It describes the sadistic cruelty of Hitler's SS and the day-to-day torments they administered, the special horrors they devised. It names names. It gives a picture vivid, fitless, and complete of the systematic torture and murder of 6 million human beings. This is one of the very first books I read on the subject of Holocaust, despite being told that I denied the Holocaust. I'll get into that some other time. This is a pretty good book, actually. Can you see it? I'll get it. Give it. There we go. I also want to point out there's now way too much light in here. Before I didn't have enough light, now I have too much light. Look how bright that is. That's very bright, very colorful right now. But anyway, I digress. Derived by the author from interviews and oral histories, these 89 original Hasidic tales about the Holocaust provide unprecedented witness in a traditional idiom to the victim's inner experience of unspeakable suffering. This volume constitutes the first collection of original Hasidic tales to be published in a century. This is a very good book. Another book very much worth finding if you can find it. It is very good. Yes, I was told after the fact. I somehow denied the Holocaust. Anyway, The Survivor, The Enemy of Life in the Death Camps. Another excellent book I first well, when I first started out, I mean, this is a very good book. You want to understand what it was like. An eloquent revelation that touches the foundations of what man is, neither despairing nor conventionally hopeful. Survivor describes the most terrible events in human history, but what emerges finally is an image of man stubbornly equal to the worst that we can't happen. That can't happen. I like this. I mean, I like because I like history. I really learned a lot. It amazes me that people can deny that the Holocaust actually happened when there's more evidence that it did happen than anything else. I don't understand these people. I've met them. It's weird. And history is repeating itself. You're not going to convince me otherwise. History is repeating itself. Everybody, well, and only those who don't think it happened or don't want to see it happening can deny it's happening. This book is a recent purchase, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I have heard very good things about this book. Auschwitz does it the gut level. Hannah Arendt achieved some 40 years ago the level of philosophy. And I have her book on Eichmann, by the way. I haven't read it, but I do have it. At Auschwitz, Lawrence Beeries provides a shocking portrait of the world's most infamous death camp, informed by more than 100 original interviews with survivors and Nazi perpetrators who speak on the record for the first time. Reed's narrative exposes the inner workings of the camp in unprecedented detail, from the techniques of mass murder to the bizarre microcosms that emerge within the camp, such as the brothel and the dining hall, where the line between guard and prison became surprisingly blurred. A major bestseller in Europe, Auschwitz is a vital addition to our understanding of the Second World War, the Holocaust, and human potential for committing unspeakable evil. As I haven't read it, I have heard good things about it. Another book I have not read, but I've also heard good things about. When the Nazis invaded Hungary in 1944, they sent virtually the entire Jewish population to Auschwitz. A Jew and a medical doctor, the prisoner Dr. Nicholas, I'm not even trying to say his last name, was spared death for a grimmer fate. To perform the scientific research on his fellow inmates under the supervision of the man who became known as the infamous Dr. Angel of Death, Dr. Yosef Mengele. I'm going to use his first name. Nicholas was named Mengele's personal research pathologist. In that capacity, he also served as physician to Sonderkommando, the Jewish prisoners who worked exclusively in the crematoriums and were routinely executed after 4 months. Miraculously, he survived to give this horrifying and sobering account. I haven't read it. Again, another book that looks good and I've heard good things about. I'm sorry, I will never understand people who do not think the Holocaust happened. I just don't get it. I've heard of Primo Levi. I've never read this book, but I have heard of him. So I do recommend his books. 1943, Primo Levi, 25-year-old chemist and Italian citizen of Jewish race, was arrested by Italian fascists and deported from his native turn to Auschwitz. Survival at Auschwitz is Levi's classic account of his 10 months in the German death camp. A harrowing story of systematic cruelty and miraculous endurance. Remarkable for simplicity, restraint, compassion, and movement. Survival at Auschwitz remains a lasting testament to the indestructibility of the human spirit. Indeed, this new edition is an illuminating conversation with Philip Roth and Primo Levi, number 4 published in book form. So I haven't heard of it. I think he committed suicide a few years ago, I think. I could be wrong, but I think he did. I think the insurance finally caught up with him, unfortunately. Of course, you all heard of Eli Wiesel. The book, one of the very first books on the subject of a memoir I ever read was that glare is going to drive me crazy. There you go. I'm tilting the book a little bit so you can see better. But, well, I'm not sure where the glare's coming from. But anyway, the paper's too shiny. Again, excellent, of course. So this book has nothing to do with Auschwitz, but it is a very good book. I'm fairly certain that most people who study who know who Simon Wiesenthal is, well-known Nazi hunter. While imprisoned in a Nazi Nazi concentration camp, Simon Wiesenthal, was taken one day from his work detail in the bedside of a dying member of the SS, haunted by the crimes in which he has participated. The soldier wanted to confess and to obtain absolution from a Jew. Faced with the choice between compassion, justice, silence, and truth, Wiesenthal said nothing. But even years after the war had ended, he wondered, had he done the right thing? What would he have done in his place? I remember reading this book and liking it very much. It is a very good testament of humanity and inhumanity. Doing the right thing or not doing the right thing is, it's a very good book. This book, if you want to know why it's possible that a civilized country can create such mass murderers, is this one. How even of average middle-aged Germans became the cold-blooded murderers of tens of thousands of Jews. Now, I've heard of this book a long time ago. This book, you want to know how Holocaust began and start and end? This is how you do it. This is the book on how you want to know how it's possible for a civilized country like Germany at the time became an uncivilized, barbaric horde of Jew killers. Sorry, okay, they're probably all dead now. Another good book on the Holocaust, another good book on that period of time. Now, this book is what happened. Said enough is enough, and we're going to do something about it. Oh, I forgot the other book up there. There's another book about Jewish resistance during all of this time too. I forgot to put it up here. Treblinka, the inspiring story of 600 Jews who revolted against their murderers and burned a Nazi death camp to the ground. They did. Unfortunately, they got all recaptured again, or killed anyway. Either killed or recaptured. It's been a long time since I've read this book. But it is a very good book. It's a very excellent book on when Jews say enough is enough. They should have done it more, but they were at that point, they really couldn't have done very much. They were outnumbered, outgunned, out everything. And they were in no condition to do something other than maybe minor little resistance here and there. But an excellent book. Now, the Commandant of Treblinka is in this book. It's of that darkness, and based on extensive interviews and an unprecedented portrait of Franz Sigler, Commandant of Treblinka, the largest of the five Nazi extermination camps. Speak English, David. You can do it. I know you can. The scene is Treblinka. The character is Franz Sigler. The theme is mass extermination of men, women, and children. Think about it, though. That is what the Holocaust was. And you're not going to be able to convince me that that's not what Hamas has become. Hamas is the modern day Nazi party. Hamas and their followers are no better than what Germans sat around doing nothing, and the Germans who participated and the Nazis who created it. You're not going to convince me that history is not repeating itself. Because it is horribly, dangerously, and it baffles me how people, Jew hatred is easy. That's partly why they do it. They just don't like Jewish people. And then they're convinced that Jewish people are the problem. Sounds all familiar to me. Sounds like history repeating itself to me. Anyway, on to the last one. I never read this book. It looked interesting. The Voices from the Third Reich in Oral History. Intriguing, troubled picture of those who made the Third Reich highly recommended. How could a civilized nation willing to submit to such a regime as Hitler's and accomplish its crimes? Those who never knew those years ask the question. Those who remember them can reply only by stating their own experiences. There are painful stories about the survivors of the pogroms and Auschwitz. Very occasionally there is a touch of grim humor, and there are redeeming glimpses of human kindness. The men and women included here recall their attitudes and behavior in compelling and painful details. Basically, it's an oral history of people who endured it, who went through it, who participated in it, who did it, basically both sides. But it's a heavy book. I wonder if I should get that book for enough resistance. Because there was resistance. I mean, there is. Don't go anywhere. Jews, I mean, there were pockets of resistance. There were pockets of Jewish resistance here and there. This is that against all hope. Imprisoned in Auschwitz and one of the leaders of the international resistance in the camp, Langbein painstakingly documents for the first time how different groups, Germans, Austrians, Poles, Russians, Communists, Socialists, Jehovah's Witnesses even, Jews and Gypsies carried out acts of resistance. In spite of the sinister system of terror of the SS, which made resistance such a heroic effort, prisoners clandestinely built radios, burned down plants, blew up crematoriums. Langbein describes a hierarchical, speak words, David, hierarchical system of the prisoners themselves, in which criminals and communists formed the elite, the struggle for power between the various groups, and differences that so deeply divided them. Basically, Jews did fight back. I mean, it was very small pockets of resistance, but they did do it. I mean, there were Jews resistance here and there. This wasn't enough. And at that point, it was like, you're not going to win this one. I mean, sadly, you're not going to win this one. And the book I bought today, I bought this book today. There we go. Nazi Germany and the Jews, 1933 to 1945, is an abridged edition of Saul Friedlander's definitive Pulitzer Prize-winning two-volume history of the Holocaust. Nazi Germany and the Jews, the years of persecution, 1933 to 1939, and the years of extermination, Nazi Germany and the Jews, 1939 to 1945. The book's first part, dealing with the Nationalist Socialist campaign of oppression, restores the voices of Jews who were engulfed in an increasingly horrifying reality. Following the Nazi accession to power, Friedlander also provides the accounts of the first persecutors themselves, and perhaps, most telling of all, the testimonies of ordinary German citizens who, in general, sit silent and unmoved by the increasing waves of segregation, humiliation, impoverishment, and violence. The second part covers the German extermination policy that resulted in the murder of 6 million European Jews, an official program that depended upon the cooperation of local authorities, police departments, sensitivity of the populations, and the willingness of the victims to submit in desperate hope of surviving long enough to receive German advice. A monumental, multifaceted study now contained a single volume, saw Friedlander's Nazi Germany and the Jews, 1933-1945, is an essential study of a darkly complex history. Complex. People don't like Jews. The world doesn't like Jews when they fight back, which is what we have the problem now. Because if you notice, the world doesn't mind if Jews just sit there and get killed. They don't mind if they get, tortured and kidnapped and blah, blah, blah from us. Oh, no, but don't you dare fight back, Mr. Jew. You better just take it. Jews, Holocaust, no more. Never again means never again, people. We're not going back. We went through that once. We're not doing it again. But anyway, 80 years ago today, the Russians liberated Auschwitz. So many keys popping up. Yes, I do have a lot of books. I have a few other books. I just didn't want to bring them all. I do have a lot of books. Other books on a lot of different subjects, and a lot of different the same subjects. But I was told indirectly one day that I had told somebody that I had denied the Holocaust never happened, and I'm thinking, apparently you weren't in my room with all those books I had. Apparently you didn't care to ask me what I had said or why I said it, or anything else for that matter, and I can't help you. Okay? I didn't say it. I would never have said it. But I'm a historian, and I believe in finding out the facts, and I've spent most of my life studying all this nonsense. It does frustrate me, because people who denied the Holocaust baffle me, because they really do have their heads so buried in the sand or somewhere else, and deny it never happened. I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't understand these people. It happened. The Germans allowed themselves to be turned into a barbaric horde, and some of them just went along with it to get along, but they didn't want to cause problems and they wanted to survive. And survival is a human instinct. People will do things that they normally wouldn't do to survive. is understandable. I mean, it is understandable, but it's also cowardly. And history is repeating itself. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. History is repeating itself. I'm seeing the same things that I've done describing happening right now in this country and all over the place. And it's like, okay, history's repeating itself. If you all want to know what it was like and why Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany, you're all watching it, and some of you are participating. You're clueless, or you want to be clueless, or you don't care. But anyway, those are all the books. I could have shown more, but you get the idea. You get the idea. This Jew here is not easy. But yeah, I did a lot of books. I do recommend this one. This one I've heard a lot of good things about. You should stand there and watch it. We'll read this book. People stop telling me that I'm crazy. People stop telling me to just accept the fact that it happened. No. It's happening again. I'm not going to convince me otherwise. I know my history. I know Jewish history. And the world doesn't like it when Jews fight back. They don't. They like Jews who are victims. They like Jews who just meekly go off to concentration camps and gas chambers and ovens and firing squads and anything else I can think of and do nothing about it. Those are the Jews the world likes. They don't like the Jews who fight back. They just don't. Which is why most of the planet dislike Israel. Because Israel says, no. We're not going anywhere. You're not going to push us into the sea. This is our land. This is given to us by God. This is our original homeland. Anyway, it's a touchy subject for people, and I understand why I was having a problem with the person I was talking to about Poland, where Auschwitz is, and why, and was it part of Polish territory? And I'm thinking, well, it was. Just because the Germans annexed it doesn't make it any less Polish. I mean, I get it. I mean, you have this monument in your country that you really don't want there as a constant reminder of something you'd like to forget about. I get it. It makes sense. I understand. But it is there. Okay? Sorry, but it is there. You not like it. Unfortunately, I don't blame you for not liking it. But Polish history is not exactly, how shall we say, spotless when it comes to Jewish history. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Behave yourselves, people. You know I'm not going to. The picture is so clear, so colorful. No, seriously, if you saw where I'm saying it, it's nice and clear. The reflection would go away, but that's fine. Okay, well, thank you. Like, share. Later. Behave yourselves.